Have you ever noticed that Sunday evening feels different than any other time of the week? There's this specific heaviness that settles in around 6 p.m. The weekend is ending, tomorrow is Monday, and suddenly, that freedom you felt just hours ago evaporates into a low-grade anxiety that sits in your chest like a stone. There's something strange about the way we've structured modern work. We spend roughly one-third of our adult lives, about 90,000 hours, trading our time for money, our energy for security, our days for the promise of someday. And here's the paradox. Most of us accept this as normal, inevitable, just the way things are. But our brains and bodies tell a different story. The Sunday scaries, the Monday morning dread, the Friday euphoria that lasts exactly 2 days before the cycle begins again. So what's really happening psychologically when you work a 9 to 5? And why does something so normal often feel so unnatural? Let's start with the most fundamental aspect of the 9 to 5. You're trading your time for money. Think about what time actually is. It's not just hours on a clock. It's your life, converted into units. Every hour you spend at work is an hour you'll never get back. And here's what makes the 9 to 5 psychologically challenging. You're not just spending time. You're spending it according to someone else's schedule, someone else's priorities, someone else's definition of what's valuable. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman's research on time perception reveals something fascinating. We experience time very differently based on autonomy. When you have control over how you spend your time, minutes can feel expansive, meaningful. When someone else controls your time, those same minutes can feel suffocating, endless, stolen. This is why an hour doing something you love vanishes in seconds, while an hour in a meeting you don't want to be in stretches like taffy. It's not about duration, it's about agency. Most 9 to 5 jobs are structured around minimal autonomy. You don't choose when to arrive, when to leave, when to take lunch. These decisions are made for you. And this lack of control doesn't just affect your schedule, it affects your psychology. But here's what's really fascinating about the psychology of working a 9 to 5. You start living as multiple versions of yourself. There's work you and real you. And these aren't just different moods, they're almost different people. Think about how you talk at work versus how you talk with friends, how you dress, what you care about, what you're allowed to care about. At work, you have to be professional, diplomatic, agreeable, productive, available. You manage your emotions, control your reactions, perform enthusiasm for things you don't care about. When you spend 40 plus hours a week being work you, something interesting happens psychologically. You start to lose touch with real you. Dr. Amy Wrzesniewski's research at Yale reveals that most people in traditional 9 to 5 jobs view their work as just a job, a means to an end, not an end in itself. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. You spend most of your waking hours doing something you don't find inherently meaningful, while simultaneously believing you should live a meaningful life. So you compartmentalize. Work is work. Life is what happens outside of work. But when work takes up so much of your time, life gets squeezed into the margins. Evenings after you're exhausted, weekends that disappear too quickly. And somewhere in this fragmentation, you start to wonder, which version is the real me? Let's talk about something most 9 to 5 workers instinctively know, but rarely say out loud. You're probably not actually productive for 8 hours a day. How much time do you spend in meetings that could have been emails? How much time scrolling, spacing out, stretching tasks to fill time? Here's the truth. Research shows that the average office worker is truly productive for about 3 hours per day. 3 hours. The rest is emails, meetings, administrative tasks, and what we might call productivity theater, looking busy because you're expected to be there. But here's what's fascinating. The 9-5 structure isn't actually designed around productivity. It's designed around surveillance and control. The model originated during the Industrial Revolution, when factory owners needed workers present to operate machines. But most modern jobs aren't factories. You're doing knowledge work, thinking, creating, problem solving. Cal Newport's research on deep work demonstrates that focused cognitive work typically happens in 90-minute bursts, and most people can only sustain 4 to 5 hours of it per day. Yet the 9 to 5 demands 8 hours of your presence, regardless of whether you have 8 hours of meaningful work to do. So you stretch it. You fill time. You create busy work to justify your existence. And this creates a peculiar psychological state. You're simultaneously overworked and understimulated, exhausted but not fulfilled. When you work a traditional 9 to 5 job, you're essentially renting out your life in 40-hour increments. And the terms are clear. During work hours, your time isn't yours. Your attention isn't yours. Your energy isn't yours. You can't leave when you're done with your work. You have to stay until the clock says you can go. You can't take a mental health day just because you need one. You can't pursue a creative project in the middle of the afternoon when inspiration strikes. That time is already sold. And here's what's really happening psychologically. You're living a borrowed life. The hours from 9 to 5 belong to someone else. Your real life, the one where you make decisions, pursue interests, spend time with people you love. That life happens in the margins. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow shows that flow rarely happens when you're doing something you're obligated to do. Flow requires intrinsic motivation, autonomy, and meaning. How often do you experience flow at your 9 to 5 job? How often do you lose track of time because you're so engaged? For most people, the answer is rare, maybe never. So let's address the question underneath all of this. What is this all for? You work to earn money, to pay bills, to support yourself or your family. These are real, valid, necessary reasons. But here's what's really happening psychologically. Humans need more than survival. We need meaning, purpose, a sense that what we're doing matters. And this is where many 9 to 5 jobs fail us. They provide financial security, but not existential meaning. Anthropologist David Graeber found that a significant percentage of workers believe their jobs make no meaningful contribution to the world. They're just moving things around, making money for someone else, playing a role in a system they don't fully understand or believe in. Viktor Frankl argued that humans can endure almost any hardship if they have a sense of purpose. But without that, why? Even comfort becomes unbearable. The 9 to 5 might provide comfort, a steady paycheck, a routine, stability. But for many people, it doesn't provide why. But here's where the psychology gets particularly cruel. The 9 to 5 teaches you to postpone living. You tell yourself, I'll pursue my passion after I save enough money. I'll travel after I get promoted. I'll prioritize my health, my relationships, my happiness later, after, someday. But here's the truth. Someday rarely comes. Dr. Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse who recorded the regrets of the dying, found that the number one regret was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Not, I wish I'd worked more, not, I wish I'd climbed higher on the corporate ladder. They wished they'd been braver. They wished they'd lived. And here you are, still young enough, still capable, postponing your life for the promise of someday. So what do you do with all of this? The first step isn't quitting your job or burning it all down. The first step is honoring what you're feeling. That Sunday anxiety, that Monday dread. Those feelings aren't weakness. They're information. Your body and mind are trying to tell you something. This isn't working for you. And that's okay. That doesn't make you ungrateful or lazy. It makes you human. Here's what you can do, even if you can't quit tomorrow. Stop calling your free time free time. It's not free. It's your life. Protect it fiercely. Reclaim small autonomies wherever you can. Build in moments of choice, of agency throughout your day. Start untangling your identity from your job title. You are not your job. And stop postponing. If there's something you want to do, someone you want to become, start now. Not someday, now. Because you don't get this time back. This is your actual life happening right now. Remember that Sunday evening feeling we started with? That heaviness, that dread? That feeling is your humanity, refusing to be ignored. It's the part of you that knows you're made for more than trading time for money, more than fragmentation, more than postponement. The 9 to 5 isn't inherently wrong, but for many of us, it's a cage we've mistaken for security, a script we're following because we don't realize. We're allowed to rewrite it. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to question the default. You are allowed to design a life that doesn't require constant recovery. Because at the end of your life, you won't remember the meetings or the emails or the performance reviews. You'll remember the moments you felt alive, the times you chose courage over comfort, the days you lived instead of just survived. Your time is not infinite. Your life is happening right now. So maybe the real psychology of working a 9 to 5 isn't about surviving it. Maybe it's about waking up to the fact that you never had to just survive in the first place.